Right, let's get into some dragon. Just gonna start with where we left off. Pick my into the that should be better. So we're in the year 483. Start of the year. Just finished. So been using this like a introductory. It's designed to be something run through in a few missions. Missed the fact this existed the first couple of years, so I didn't actually get into it until the last couple of years. This goes from 480 to 485 actually, or 483 where it ended. So I didn't really get to it till 482. So what I ended up doing there is effectively what this is as like a real soft introduction in Pendragon. It has you go through a number of real high level checks where your knights are going out to your count, Sir Roderick, Count of Salisbury, the county you're in, and you're assigned to a wedding party effectively that's out to try and find the appropriate suitor for Count Roderick. Where this leads you is to a number of different places within the Kingdom of Logres inside of... Oh, Liam, get out of here. You can't see all the lies, all the secrets. Okay, so effectively, it walks you through a number of things. Each time you're going to visit a potential suitor, starts you with the one you end up landing, which is Lady Ellen, or should end up landing. I guess you could play this in a way where, you know, the players actually have a stronger effect, and it's not just designed to be something where they get to witness the occurrence, but they can actually affect it. You would probably at least want to make it feel that way. What I ended up doing is 480 to 485, I'm doing a full prologue. So this is just one story in the prologue. But it happens to be the next episode deals with the culmination of this. So that's why we're talking about it. So year 480, one of my NPCs, Lady Violet, led a party to meet Lady Ellen, who ends up being the one that Count Roderick ends up choosing. They travel basically to meet with her and her father. Her father ends up dead, and that creates a complication of things. The king decides to hold off on trying to marry her. She's pretty young at this point anyways. She's only 13. Keep in mind this is King Arthur days. So they decide to hold off anyways. Typically a maiden wouldn't be, her hand wouldn't be, she wouldn't end up marrying anyone probably till 16. Lady Lilia, or Lady Rosalind, was the other NPC-led scenario. So these things happen off-screen in the background, and we alluded to them. Lady Rosalind ended up being another scenario with a nearby county. I don't remember the full details of that. I knew it a few weeks ago, but it's not too important at this point. Then the players came in and dealt with Lady Lilia. That was really interesting because she ended up being really awful to her people, her servants and stuff. The players picked up on that, and they advised again. The players actually went through the participating in the 483 event. This is what we just went through. And I weaved it into a number of other stories that I was running. I was actually able to bring a guest on the stream. He helped me tie these things together with his characters. As far as what we actually looked at here, there are a couple of major events that took place, including an ambush on the way to the royal court. And I rolled randomly where the royal court was, since it bounces around. This is the Easter court, so at the very beginning of the year, 483. Effectively, Pendragon year starts in the spring. This was pretty brutal. I wanted it to mean something rather than just feel like a random encounter. So I had set up that it was going to be particularly dangerous, but it actually worked out that way too. One of our players nearly bit it, which added to the tension. I also had one other NPC in mind was going to die. Kind of narrated that to happen. It worked out. I always leave room with those sorts of things. I think some people feel very railroaded by things, and I like player agency. So the way I tend to write things is, a lot of these books say X needs to happen. I soften that. It's not X needs to happen. X is the likely course of things that happen. And in some cases, that thing is so specific and so likely to happen that the players would have to, move major things to do that. Something really heroic to avoid that. Sometimes it's much easier than that. So an example might be you're playing a Star Wars campaign. You're actually involved in the, New Hope saga, and players would have to move sort of heaven and earth, not to say have Obi-Wan die there. That might be an example. It's important, I think, as a GM, a storyteller, a DM, to leave some room and make sure your players, at the very least, feel like there's player agency. There might not actually be. At the end of the day, GMing and role-playing in general is kind of a contract between the players and the GM about what's going to take place. It's possible that you all have an idea in mind, and you decide ahead of time that it's going to be tragedy. I think that's why player agency is more important than character agency. Am I a player, or am I feeling like I'm a puppet in this game? No one likes feeling like a puppet in someone else's game. That's my experience. So ranting aside, we had the ambush, one of the houses, NPC houses in the game, Newton Manor. I'll just pull up some. So one of the player houses, there we go. Newton Manor over here. You know what? We'll go ahead and tag that. See if we got the horseshoe in. Not. Sorry. These holes. So what I'm doing right now is looking up a banner that I want to throw on this page for the Newton Manor house. There it is. Just help me locate it quickly. Visual person. Alright, so Newton Manor is one of the primary, I'd say, antagonists. He was designed to be someone who would certainly be an antagonist, but I always leave room for the players, as I mentioned. Players totally took him up as a major enemy of theirs. They want him dead, and they bring it up all the time. So it worked out. Our guest Zach played his younger brother, and it was the father and household lord of, basically vassal knight of Newton Manor, that died. With his death, things fall to the antagonist, which is going to be very interesting. So the antagonist now rules the Newton Manor vassal house. See where things go from there. They definitely were set up kind of with a Lannister sort of vibe to them. I didn't even mean to, it just sort of happened between what I had planned for the house, which was very small. This was pulled, I think, start of this was pulled off of a card, and then we riffed off that card to the point where we called out one of the players for being a bastard, and that led to a duel that the bastard lost, and then from there it just snowballed. But as far as what we have planned from here, we'll have to see what happens to Sir Jareth of New Manor. All right, so continuing on, let's get back to so the next point here is the wedding of Count Roderick. This happens in the summer of 483. There really isn't much in here, if you can see. Just gonna kind of browse this again. So he's gonna go wherever the king is to claim his wife, which, you know, isn't that exciting. We'll have to flavor this up a bit. So the bride and groom assemble, guests assemble, of course the players would be there. Parade to the church. So we've got the actual ceremony, which I'm not, you know, I can write that up in a couple of minutes. So for that prep, we'll just say, I'll do that up in a second. I'm trying to create my framework first in my mind. So grand feast, so we're gonna do a feast. Probably 3-round feast afterwards. Players called for this, so they've been through so many feasts. They just got out of a major feast. I felt hesitant to do another feast. The players love the card, the feast card system, so it's not so bad. And I've got an idea, so they don't have to hit the winter feast. Talk about that. Okay. Grand Feast and participating player knights, they gain 25 glory. So almost nothing happens, and it talks a little bit about how this lays the seed for a future feud between Salisbury and Lev Kamagas, which we've already sort of started to hint at and establish. You know, there's this other suitor of Lady Ellen's hand, and the Saxon raid was blamed on him. A whole bunch of the knights beaten into that. I'm not going to spoil sort of what's actually behind it. It's not that important, really. What's more important is the feud itself, I think. And we were able to establish that feud in the last feast. So the seeds planted there. So I need to figure out what I want to do to spice up this particular feast. So I need to kind of look through my remaining seeds, my plot seeds. I have a number of open plot seeds, and I'm closing out the game in 484. We're moving in out of the prologue and into the main game, where we're taking on brand new protagonists that we've only sort of showed. So with the new protagonists, the new 21-year-old newly knighted characters, the game's going to change a little bit, and to me that means that the plot seeds that are very specific to these characters absolutely closed, or at least chained into something that could be on go. So I'm just going to open up my Pendragon notes here. I'm not going to share all of them. Probably just too many. All right, so I have a list. I created a list of hanging plot threads. Okay, so I can actually share this because it's not really a spoiler, it's just the reality. We have the Humble Creek Bastard. Dallin is Elizabeth, which we can do more with. The real Dallin of Durnford. Talk about that. Dallin is Elizabeth, which we had. Duplicate there on accident. Edward and Ira. So this is a hanging thread about his potential marriage. All the Roman. And things that absolutely don't have to be. So these ones are all very character specific. And then things that could be resolved in the primary game are the Yellow Sign and Sir Jareth, the antagonist. So we talked about Sir Jareth already. Yellow Sign is sort of my little ode to occult and the King in Yellow. The worst part is I'm pretty sure another Pendragon streamer who's like someone I absolutely love and watch his stuff. I think he did something similar. They say great GMs borrow. So I will tip off anything I got there. I didn't mean to. Like, I love the yellow sign blending from, say, True Detective, other scenarios like that. And it seems to have a really good fit for any era, really, like a creepy cult. Especially one that has that pagan vibe to it. It seemed to fit really well. The Real Dalen of Durnford. We're going to earmark that. That is absolutely going to be a Winter Feast replacement. We're going to call this Goratrick. Humble Creek Bastard. Because it actually is really a Goratrick's plot, even though Edward's strung into it a bit. And you know what? We're going to add one here. The not marriage. Our knights are all the knights. There's a specific romance between Edward and Ira. Goratrix is in another character is kind of stuck in a number of things, including claim of a recent bastard child that was perhaps his. So we're gonna have to see what this is. Two of the players have been talking about the possibility of their characters landing a marriage together. See if that happens. I encourage you to watch the streams if you're going to watch them, because there's going to be spoilers here. We're 19 episodes in already, but you'll see that Dalen is Elizabeth. That's Dalen, a knight, is actually his sister masquerading as him, and he's missing. So that is something we can tug at. He's recently told Sir Roderick, Count Roderick, and Elizabeth turned a blind eye to. Effectively, don't get caught. Sir Goratrix and the Humble Creek Bastard, I think that can absolutely be something we refer to here. There should be news back on what's being done. You know what'd be really interesting? I think this is the first time that Knights of Humble Creek present at the wedding. It's at the King's Court, so it wouldn't have to, even though it's Roderick's wedding, it would make sense to potentially be there. The Real Dalen of Durnford, again, earmark that winter days. Well, Christmas Court. And I might need to prep for that in case we actually get some extra time that leads into it. I don't think, like, our stream is working out to be about 2.5, 3 hours these days. So I don't think we're going to have time to get there if we're doing it. I've found that, so you can try to blow through a whole year as fast as you can, but you end up with less meaningful events. So if you're going to do a feast, do the feast. If you're going to do a battle, do the battle. If it takes a few episodes, so be it. I set out to do 1 to 3 episodes per year. That's not where we're at. We've been through 3 years and not even all the way through. Wait, 480, 481, 482. So we've been through about 3.5 years, and we're going on episode 20. So it's been easily more like 5 years or 5 episodes per year. And I don't think that's a problem. The biggest issue I've run into with that There is one particular issue. The Pendragon system, as it's designed, there's only so much advancement you get from something that feels like experience. The rest is gained through using your character's roles, like in Call of Cthulhu, where when you're successful, you can checkmark it. Well, the check marks don't get checked until the winter phase, or they don't get rolled until the winter phase. So if you spend all your episodes, let's say episode 1, you get a successful check on intrigue, and then you go through 3 or 4 more feasts. Well, your intrigue is going to be less exciting when you can't tick it again. So that idea that you only get 1 tick kind of sucks. And it might be something I look at house ruling. I don't want to house rule it so it's like a re-roll, because there's, but maybe there's a slight bump or chance for every 2nd or 3rd tick that you get. Have to think about that. Again, I don't want it to be overpowered nights, so I have to spend some time considering that. But to me, it's always good to reward the players. So anyways, back into this. The romance of Edward and Ira absolutely needs to come up. Perhaps King left. No, that wouldn't make sense. That would be like a slight to circling. Well, okay. Let's go through this plot a little bit. The romance of Edward and Sir Dulois and his niece Ira. So she dates back all the way to the very first episode. She was like a random character that we pulled out of a card, so to speak. And then there's been interest in her in different ways. I found her particularly interesting too, so we started to flesh her out from there. What made her interesting is we already described her as someone being sort of offbeat a bit, and then Edward bit into that. Mark bit into that as Edward, and I think that's great. Like, let's explore that then. If it's actually interesting to the player, consider. Okay. Yeah, this happened. There was an unwanting drunk night. Edward. Ooh, yeah. We could have some more beef with Edward in that drunk night. Maybe Ira. Yeah. I like that. So Ira and that drunk night are going to come back. Edward, Ira, and that drunk night. To clarify. Ooh. Clarify who the night. So we're going to go back and, one of the best parts about streaming these things or recording, I'm going to actually throw this out there. I would have never thought to record my sessions for anything live because I feel like I play differently, but I actually don't. I don't play that much differently. If anything, I play a little more focused because I know I'm being watched and I want to put out the best product I can. But it doesn't completely throw my nerves like off balance. I'm able to still do most of what I want exactly how I would normally. It just feels like I have a live player base that's active and paying attention. So when I think of Edward, Ira, and this drunk night, I need to clarify who he was in the stream. I can go back and view that, which is excellent. Once we figure out who he was as a person, we can do the rest with him. That'll be finding out Knight has a crush and a bone to pick the... I have this instinct to tie him to our antagonist, Jareth, but I think that's just too twirly mustache evil. Like if Jareth is behind every single stupid conflict, maybe Jareth's there to observe. Yeah, Jareth would be. He's Sir Jareth of Newt Manor. is there to serve. So he can use this extra heat maybe there, but this will be the first time he's aware of it. That makes sense. And our knights are unwed. Yes, yes they are. All right. Next point. Knights unwed. I'll just take my notes down. Okay, I got an idea. So this is... I'm going to copy and paste this so I get some formatting. You know what? I should go through Riley to use bullets. Second, then we'll dive in. And formatting. Right. These ones best. Right. One more and then this is the one we're going to dive into now. Back. Edward Era and the Drunk Knight. So I might have named the Drunk Knight, so I'll have to figure out. Sorry, that was. So our knights are unwed. Okay. So this is mostly about Dallin. Roderick. Start to put the heat on them, finding a hand. From would put I think it would be the Count. Like, listen, we got to make future knights. Can't sit around and not do that. Needs to happen. We can start, we can add a little bit with the yellow sign. What do I want to do? Okay, so we established, you know what, I don't have to do that this episode. It's probably best I don't. Okay, a little confusion. What we'll do is say a single plot thread if I have time to resume. So now we're going to go up and actually create the template I've been using. These are my quick notes, you know, when I don't get to review the full stream. This just helps me figure out what, you know, what this episode is really about. So this is the marriage of Count Roderick. By the way, a quick tangent, because you're probably interested in it. Alright, so I talked about the marriage of Count Roderick, but what other material am I using for this game right now? We're not using anything out of... I have almost all the books, but for 5th edition. But we're not using all of it right now. We're using Book of Feasts quite heavily because the players have latched onto the feast system, and I absolutely adore like the improv that comes from the feast cards. It's brilliant. I'll show you kind of how it works. So we have this feast screen over here. And these are the cards you pull from a deck. Super cool. There's the image. Hi. Started to add all the heraldry I can. And the reason I've been doing that is I think it's a great visual indicator. So when you see faces, even if you don't know the names, like, oh, okay, these two are together somehow. My music. Definitely not. So yeah, that's the feast system. There are a couple of other systems we'll be adding in, but not till after, not till when the players start playing their post-prologue, their main game PCs, because they're vassal knights in that case. They'll have access to... I don't actually see them. I might not have posted them, but there's a Book of the Estate. Here it is. And there is another one, Book of Manor, I want to say it is. Between the two, you can really have like make the winter phase like more interesting and effective as a vassal knight. It makes them feel like they're actually property owners. And I think our players will like that a lot. There's also a Book of Battle that we haven't latched onto yet. But in the next year, 484, we absolutely are going to explore the Book of Battle. I think that'll be interesting to end the prologue with. And then as we cut over to the main game, we'll bring in the Book of the Estate and the Book of Manor. I'm unclear how they relate to each other. I haven't read them yet, but they're not very big. It's 130 pages. And some of it's stuff you can just skim through tables. As far as the books I have been using, though, this is the one that tracks the Book of Uther. Actually, it gives you 5 extra years, so 480 to 485, where you can kind of follow along. And I use this like I use most games of the timeline. If I want to follow like a meta of a timeline, I'll use the high points from whatever book gives me the meta points that happen, and then I weave the player's own individual interesting plots into that meta plot somehow. So how have I done that with this? Well, there's the Prince Matic, who's the bastard son of Uther, and I've absolutely had the players have done a really good job interacting with him. My original plan with Matic was to make him someone that they didn't, and I think they're still worried about him, which is excellent. So this is that Uther has bastard son Matic, whose spoiler doesn't last, which is part of why Arthur is king. I wonder what that succession would have looked like with Uther having actually married Arthur's mom. If that would have been a succession war if Matic and Arthur were alive. And that could be like a really interesting, like if you wanted to put a spin on the plot, you could actually do something. But this game assumes that you're not going to sway or stray from anything that actually happens from King Arthur or from King Uther all the way to the Holy Grail quest. So these years are informative years for Uther. It starts with Uther not even being king yet. He's the prince and brother of Aurelius Ambrosius. And then Aurelius Ambrosius takes over. Or Aurelius Ambrosius bites it, and Uther takes over in 480. 481, I think. The end of 480, that's what it was. And then there's the Great Pendragon campaign, which goes from 485 to some crazy year. It's like multi-generation. Year 566. So we could be playing this if we wanted to for many, many years. We'll see what that happens. I think when we get to the Anarchy period, we're going to blow through those years fairly quick. We'll make a couple of them interesting, and we'll get through some of them. There will be certain years where we try to get down to a couple of episodes a year, because doing anything more than that, like we playing for 10 years, I really do want to punch through this and all the way to the end. And then there's the Pendragon Book itself, which gives you all the rules that you really need. The rest is like bolt-ons. The Book of Knights and Ladies I've used for some things, and the Book of Sires is great if you want to make a knight from another realm, or if you want to use more expansive rules for the creation of your Salisbury Knights than what's in the main book, because you actually go through like a rolling their history. All right, so that deals with that. Let's get back to the notes and close out our prep session here. Got a few more minutes. So we're just going to say who's here. So it's going to be Uther and Entourage, Count Roderick and Entourage, Lady Ellen and Entourage, Sir Hero and Entourage. Intrigue and conflict on multiple fronts as the knights move to celebrate their lord's marriage. So when we talk about the purposes here, this gives me an outline in case I forget. I mean, I'm running tomorrow, so I probably won't. So if we talk about what we looked at down here, we're going to have the biggest point is Roderick and Ellen are wed. Next interesting point, so we start to dive into player stuff now. Roderick and Humble Creek is concluded, and by that I mean may result in scheduled duel, likely to result. Honestly, this guy's got his mind made up about these knights, and part of it, this isn't just something I threw on the players. Some of it came from the reaction. The knights were very cheeky to Hero's son, overly playful with him, or curt and rude, and so you got to think about the disposition that creates for somebody. So then months later, his sister ends up pregnant. She's not talking about the details. There's servants and other people that saw that sister or one of the sisters naked and coming out of Goratrix's room, and Goratrix was fighting the Saxons naked. All signs point towards they were together. And then on top of that all, you've gone and pissed off the Sir Hero's son, who's going to say, he's going to advise his Lord Father exactly what he would feel about these knights, that they're a problem. They're, dicks. That he wouldn't put it past them. It's a very different experience than if they had been very gracious about the hospitality. That I know the brother wasn't really a part of being a hospitable person, but that's where courtesies come in, and a lack of courtesy can go a long way to people not liking you. So it's interesting to see how Edward got sucked into all this, because he's the one that was really the one lacking the hospitality, and it had to do with this Humble Creek Manor's family being somewhat linked to Newton Manor. Jareth is friends with Hero's son. So Every is his name. Every of Humble Creek. Let's see if I got him down here. I don't. I'm not sure where I put him. Oh, there he is. This is Every here. Alright, so back to topic, because I'm close here pretty quick. Could be resolved peacefully if players are actually willing to give up something. So I think what the players haven't grasped in this one, it looks bad. It looks really bad. And all signs point towards their direction. Now, it's possible that this was one of the Saxons. It's also possible that they had nothing to do. But if they did, and not owning up to it, which we know that Gortrix is saint, saw him on screen, he failed his lust roll. This is the kind of thing that failing a lust roll is meant to do, or a chaste roll. So when you look at this scenario, there's nothing that could have been done, I think, by the players to make this go well without them giving something of significance in return, which they're absolutely unwilling to do. Their thought is, we're good at the sword, we can cut him down. And that might be the way this resolves, but it might also resolve with that player character dying. And because Every's not a pushover as a knight, we established that already. We'll have to see if they want to go to the dice for it. Then I take no responsibility for the outcome. It was a failed roll, which is part of the game, and then a sequence of political intrigue maneuvers. This sort of thing is going to happen. All right. So back to the point. Knight. Drunk knight. Knight from the spring port. Not as drunk this time. Here to continue his pursuit of Hira and to pester Edward. Jareth is here to frustrate people in general. That's my GM reason, but the real reason is actually here to support the Count in his marriage. Like, he's a vassal knight of prominence. It's going to be here. And then lastly, families of Durnford and Idmiston, or no, Winterbourne, Stoke are present, and begin to. No. We said it wasn't from the families. Roderick makes a statement now that he's married that he expects all household knights of prominence to be wed by, let's put a timeline on it, be wed by spring of next year. He will find them match. New knights must be. That's just it. He needs soldiers. So that's a pretty good card. Let's go into the optional of what could happen if we asked the marriage of Count Roderick. And we'll go real light on this because, again, I'm almost out of time. Eight formatting times. Weird, it didn't actually list these as subcategories. Heading. Turn this to heading. missed the heading. And we'll rename this the Winter Christmas JK. They're not really going to go to the Winter Court or the Christmas Court, but that's how it's going to be pitched. And so they're going to show up. It's going to be Christmas Court in Salisbury, in Sarum. Sarum, remember, it is, oh god, switch to the map and take an awfully long time for this thing to load. Oh, it already loaded. Perfect. It's a very big map. I love the detail and being able to zoom in and out. Sarum is Count Roderick's main place. It is the castle and sort of the central area of Salisbury County. It remains Earl Roderick and his son's, future son's place through the Pendragon campaign. I think you're chosen to be from Salisbury, one, because they're pretty far away from the machinations of London, so it's kind of like you're like country bumpkin nights, but that also lands you awfully close to the future Camelot and Camelot Forest. Speaking of Camelot Forest, where our plot is about to go that way, and that is because people of Salisbury the Camelot Forest. So the players are pulled into a room, private audience, just before the Christmas. Let's not say the players, because I don't think Count Roderick knows who's involved. Galen, Elizabeth, pulled into a private audience just before the Christmas court with Earl Roderick, or Count Roderick, to discuss particular robbing of a knight's horse by Sir Dallin Turnford in Camelot Forest. Count suspects that it's not the Elizabeth Dallin knows. Fears that this is real. He wants Elizabeth to lead private investigation. A small retinue. Find out. Only those know. Okay. To establish content on the real Dallin. Whatever. No more secrets. Establish content, to establish a fate. Determine a knight who was robbed. So this is probably someone who lives nearest to Camelot Forest. I don't think I've landed who's from Laverstock, so that might be the best bet, given... I'll look into Hantone. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. So, and I'll show you, this will show exactly how I like to weave things. So I want to show you this. In 483, what's actually supposed to happen at the winter court that they won't be there for is there's kind of two things at the Christmas court. The royal court, King Uther is planning something with the admiral, which is really interesting. And the admiral, the fleet, if I remember reading correctly, is down in Hantone, I think it's called. So I'll probably have the players be assigned a mission there from Roderick. Even though this is what's going on in Salisbury Court, I think Roderick will say that he needs to send a letter to Hantone or something. That'll be the reason they're absent. Is they're sending perhaps supplies to Hantone. Will be escorting something along. A cover mission for their absence. Supplies to Hantone. Establishes a new potential problem. A knight robbed, of course. Wants it back. Will blame Dallin. So they need to figure out how they're going to deal with this knight well. Or this becomes someone that will... These are how blood feuds are created, people. So when you want to play an intrigue game, perfect way to deal with that. But anyways, that's the end of my prep. I actually have to jump into another thing tonight, and I want to eat. I will catch you all later. Thanks for watching. I hope that made sense. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be uploading this on YouTube. We have a Discord if you want to join us and chat. We have a stream fam. You're welcome to join it. If you're watching the stream or you're keeping up with us, you're absolutely welcome. Thanks everyone. Take care.